You've probably heard many times that you should differentiate your business and innovate to compete in today's market. However, not many people take the time to actually do this. And our guest today, Mark Coudray, is the founder of Coudray Growth Technologies and the Catalyst Plan. It is a beacon of hope for businesses who are looking to break free from the relentless struggle of hustle and grind. He shares his story of how he innovated early in his career and exploded in his industry, and how you can rethink your business so you can do that too. You can work the hard way or you can work the smart way. But very inspirational. He's a certified mastery level Profit First professional. In fact, he won the Profit First Professional of the Year award. Really sharp and worth tuning into. So listen in, take notes, and take amplified actions. Hey there, amplifiers. One of the coolest things I get to do is connect with amplifiers in the world that have talked the talk, walk the walk, and have the story to tell. I'm really excited about today's guest because he's experienced some things that a lot of people strive to experience. They're working really hard to have happen and cultivate in their lives, and he's done it. And not only that, he continues to help other people grow and amplify to take themselves to higher and higher levels. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to Growth Amplifiers, Mark Coudray of Coudray Growth Technologies. Mark, thank you for being here today.
Happy to be here.
Mark, your background is really impressive. You've achieved a lot of different things, and some people who may be tuning on right now may not be aware of some of the awesome successes that you've accomplished. Could you help us by getting us tuned into your history and how you got to be to the successful person that you are today?
Right. It's really weird for me to talk about myself. I'm not driven by accolades or awards, but they're more of a measurement of other people's recognition of being able to do things. And I'm a huge believer in mission, vision, and core value alignment. So doing things that are clear to me and to my clients, and whether we align together. My personal mission statement, which has driven me my entire life, is to find a better way and share it with others. All of my companies that I have built over the years, over 50 years in business, have been as incubators for the ideas that I have, because they tend to be kind of ahead of the market.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm mostly considered kind of like, wow, he's just way out there. He does, he's just way beyond this. And that never bothers me, because everything I try and do is based on being able to justify it with the math and with the science behind it. If I can find the physics or the chemistry or the math to make it work, then I know it's legit and it's not just a sales or marketing scam that perpetrates so much of our business world today. So I always validate it based on the numbers, right? My very first company I started when I was 19 with $200 in my parents' garage was a screen printing company, printing t-shirts. And people, I was most likely to succeed in high school, top of my class, all that kind of stuff, class of 750. So it was a pretty big class. And the expectation was I was going to go to engineering or law or doctor or something like that. But I focused on what I saw as really potential from a contrarian point of view. And the contrarian point of view was that the screen printing process, which is viewed primarily as an art kind of thing or a craft, it's the most versatile imaging process in the graphics industry at that time. Now digital is beginning to erode in that space, but I saw it as a craft that was becoming a process. And instead of becoming a mechanical engineer, going to work for Boeing or Northrop and just being another anonymous engineer designing parts that would end up in the tail of a jet at 50,000 feet that nobody would ever know about. I saw it as a possibility to really change an industry with math and science. And that's what I did. I started my company to prove that we could create high resolution images on fabric, which was non-dimensionally stable. So it was the hardest thing that you could print on. And if you could get that figured out, then it wouldn't matter whether you were printing on paper or glass or wood or whatever, it would work. So that's what I did. And I ran my business as a commercial enterprise while I got my degree. And my degree is basically in printing engineering. It's how an image gets from a machine to a substrate or a material that you're printing on. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a potato chip bag or fabric or whatever. So I looked at this very much from the engineering perspective. I ran my business full-time while I was getting my degree full-time, had 5 full-time employees by the time I graduated, took my last final, went from my final to the bank and signed the loan documents on the automation of the company. And from that point, we went from 200,000 in annual revenue to 4.5 million in 18 months.
Wow.
And that was without any kind of computers or spreadsheets or internet or social media or email or fax. It was really primitive.
Oh my goodness.
And so, it was like, how did you do that? Oh, no outside financing. This was all bootstrapped. So the question was, how did I do that? Well, it was brand new territory. Nobody was doing what I was doing. And I created a process that has carried now for 50 years, and it's everywhere. Everyone, our clients over the years have been major brands like Disney and Nike and Adidas, and then NFL and NASCAR. Apple Computer was one of our first clients between the late 70s and 1993. We did all the t-shirts for Apple. We did all of the t-shirts for the software launches for Adobe through the 90s into the 2000s, even as late as 2010 or so. So when it came to really high resolution, full color, we were the ones that figured this stuff out. But more importantly, I was interested in the business systems that were underlying it. And by the mid 2000s, the aughts, 05, 06, I realized that most small businesses were not profitable enough to invest in the emerging digital technologies and what it was going to take to transition from analog to digital. So that's what's occupied me for the last 18 years, is making companies hyper profitable in a highly commoditized industry. Doesn't matter what industry it is. I can make any company competitively unique so they stand out, and that takes them to double-digit profitability within a few months.
Number one, that is outstanding. You always hear the importance of doing something that's innovative, and your story is all about really the impact when you can really go above of what everyone else is doing, the test of time. That's how you hit the ground running. And then you can tell you're a student of knowledge, right? You read a lot, you continue to study, you're looking at the bigger principles, you let values pull you forward, which I love. And now you're helping people who are suffering because they've gotten themselves in that commoditized space and they can only compete on price, differentiate and become profitable through many different means. How do you connect with people and get this message to them? And there's so much noise, like you mentioned earlier. There's so much noise of people saying, "Oh, there's a quick fix. There's the easy button." How do you get that out there?
Separating the signal from noise is the really key element. Right from the get-go, people say, "How in the heck were you able to grow so fast?"
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was, I didn't hang out with the minnows. I went to where the big fish live. I started producing product, speculative samples for major consumer products right away. I pitched Coca-Cola. I pitched Miller Brewing. I pitched Country Time Lemonade. they all turned me down because I was 23 at the time. And it was like, who's going to, this kid can't do this. Coke gave me an order for 5,000 shirts, but it was a one color white on red. I'll take it. But here's the thing. I knew that that was going to happen. I knew that the corporations they had their own branding models and they had their own methodology that they worked with. But by pitching them and showing that I had enough courage to bring them something that they had never seen before, when they turned me down, I went to tier 2. So I pitched the whales knowing that I couldn't deal with the whales.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went for the marlin and the salmon, which I could definitely do. And so then I said, well, this is what we did for Coke, and this is what we did for Miller, and this is what we did for Country Time. It's true that I did that for them. The fact that they buy it, they connected the dots on their own. And I started getting 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, 50,000 piece orders. And once I started developing a portfolio that was proven on-time delivery within budget, exactly as I specified, that reputation propagated. And all of a sudden we became the go-to company for doing this kind of stuff. And it was years and years and years ahead of the curve.
That is remarkable. And I love the gumption of, aiming high. They tell you to aim high, but then a lot of people, including myself, when I got started, I was like, I don't know if I could do that. So let me start with what I know I can handle. But it's really the scenic route. It's really the scenic route.
It's the hard route. It's the work hard, get old route.
Yeah.
And it's all about work hard, get ahead. One of the things that I really, really disagree with in today's world with today's generation, Gen Z and millennials, is this hustle and grind mentality. Hustle and grind is the fastest way to burn yourself out. You're going to use the most productive times of your life and just overwhelm it with non-productivity. The startup culture, we could spend a whole session just on the startup culture and what a fallacy it is. But everybody's about the side hustle and the side gig, and they want to do their own deal. That's fine, but think a little bit further ahead than just the current influencer mentality or the current opportunistic, transactionally based opportunity that presents itself. You want something that's sustainable into the future.
That's very smart. I know I got, I guess, pulled into that mindset of here's the easy button and there's a smart button. there's a smart button, but I wouldn't say there's just a easy shortcut. There's doing things right and being consistent, and being smart about how you're doing things. But trying to listen to someone tell you there's a shortcut and everything's just going to be really easy. I think you do got to work through some challenges to persevere through that. For some of the people right now that are tuned in, we're really talking to a lot of accountants and CFOs and people that's in the financial space, which is continually being commoditized. They're trying to help their clients become more profitable and achieve financial clarity. How can you give them some advice from what you've learned to maybe help them see things a bit differently or take new steps into their future?
All right. So what I'm going to say next is not meant as criticism.
Mm-hmm.
It's more reflective of the environment.
Mm-hmm.
I've been huge promoter of financial competency and financial literacy on the business side, understanding your books, understanding your financial statements, balance sheet, cash flow statement, income statement, all of that. And I worked with organizations like Profit First very, very closely and very aggressively since 2017. I was the Profit First Professional of the Year in 2019 for the entire organization. And
awesome. Congrats.
I'm really close with Mike and Ron and all the people within that organization. I'm a mastery member,
Mm-hmm.
Which is their top group of performers.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience as a business owner and coach is that whether they like to admit it or not, the accountants and the bookkeepers are driven by procedure. They're driven by compliance. They're driven by this number belongs in this box and it's got to be balanced exactly where it's going to be. And I have no complaint with that. I have nothing negative to say about that. But what I find is as they move from this rules-based model, which is completely being commoditized and gobbled by automation, digital automation,
Right.
They're asking to move into the advisory space to advise their businesses, and they are completely ill-prepared to do this. And the reason I say that they're ill-prepared to do this is because they're driven by this number in a box, and there's only one way to do this kind of mentality. They lack the ability to have perspective. So when I look at commoditized businesses, and this is one of the things that I specialize in, is being any business in any industry and make them competitively unique. That means no competition. And
That's
when
awesome.
I started doing this aggressively in 2013, 2014, 2015, I built an AI model in 2015 and 2016 to identify the patterns that were hiding within the obvious patterns. So think about it like I'm looking for a pattern. That pattern is a camouflaged hunter hiding in the bushes. Until he moves, he's going to blend in perfectly. So that's a perspective. Those patterns are competitive perspectives. So far, we found 24 competitive perspectives. Most people only know lower your price, right? That's their strategy. We've studied value very, very closely. I've come up with 6 value models going from the very worst model, which 85% of small businesses use. 80% of small businesses use this worst model. The next worst model is used by the next 15%. So 95% of small business owners are using the 2 absolute worst models that are driving towards zero as opposed to driving towards infinite value.
Oh,
right?
moly.
Yeah, it's the math. Look at the math, right? And so the ideal business model is a model that has an investment perspective. And that investment perspective is give me $1, I'm going to give you $10 of new revenue back. How many times do you want to do that with me?
That's a never-ending cycle there.
Well,
Continue. Continue. Yeah.
This is what 98% of people say. My response to that is, what happens when you get tired of handing me $1 bills? Connect the dots. What have I been handing you back?
$10.
Here's 100.
Yeah. Let's raise it.
How many times are you going to do that with me?
Raise the bar.
Exactly.
Let's party.
Realize that when you create a business value model for your clients that is clearly tied to a multiple of outcome, they throw out ROI. That ROI is just a throwaway term until you can make it concrete for the business. When you can make it concrete for the business and the ROI is massive for what they invest with you, I've literally had clients come to me and say, what's the most expensive thing you can sell me?
My gosh.
Because they know that they're going to get a multiple of that. That's part of my core values. You're always going to get a greater ROI. It's guaranteed. I will guarantee the ROI for any given situation.
He's the master amplifier.
Exactly. And amplification starts off with 11. Turn the dial to 11, right? Well, that's when you start turning it to 11, what are you doing? You're adding all kinds of noise and distortion to the volume that's coming out. I prefer to create a lineage or a line of leverage where where one lever gives you an amplified result. The next step leverages that amplified result for a higher amplification. So you end up with compound leverage. And so this is literally a scenario where 1% and 2% and 3% movements can lead to a 400, 500, 600 or greater improvement. And sometimes in profit, I've seen it go up 50, 60 times, 5,000% improvement. It's crazy. And
It
it's
is
with
crazy.
effort, with less effort. This is work less, make more. Is the opposite of work hard, get old.
Love your approach. I love what you're doing. For some people who are tuned in, they're like, okay,
How is this possible?
too good to be true. Yeah, I've heard people say similar things before, and people have said some similar things before, but they couldn't deliver on it. You have the background, you have proof of concept, but
Again, it's the math. If the math works and you can create a mathematical model that shows how it works and why it works, it's not smoke and mirrors. It's not smoke and mirrors. And the challenge that I find more than anything else is that almost all small business owners have been indoctrinated with propaganda around how to drive their business. This is well-meaning advice that's fundamentally wrong, right? One of the biggest ones besides work hard, get ahead is build a better mousetrap, right? So the innovative model, true innovation, and I've spent I've spent 50 years innovating. Literally, some of the innovations that we created took 25 years before the market recognized what we were doing, because we kept spinning the cycle and iterating, and we got too far ahead to where they could even comprehend what we were doing. So understanding that you've got to meet your market where they are, but only 1 or 2 steps ahead, because that's all they can understand. Everything else is too good to be true, right? And so that 1 or 2 steps is non-sustainable, because your competitors can say, well, of course, that's exactly what we're going to do, right? And so they'll knock off what you're doing. They'll undercut the price. They'll have you spend your R&D money to create the new idea and educate the market on why it's good. And then they come in and undercut you, and you've spent all your money. You can't market now. So what happens? You go out of business, and the big companies pick you up for 10 cents on the dollar during bankruptcy, and they get the innovation. They've got the market distribution. They've got the market adoption at that point and the market awareness, and they capitalize on everything that you've done.
Hey there, this is Kenny from Growth Amplifiers, here to ensure you get your awesome ideas into action to grow and improve your business and achieve your full potential. Take the first step by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. Take the assessment to get your personalized score. Then select from free resources to learn how to improve your score. Don't wait. Be proactive and take action now by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. And always keep on amplifying. Now, let's get back to the show. Criminal. But so those people who are probably just chomping at the bit, and they want to learn more about how you provide value, how they can learn from you and see how you might be able to help them. Where could they go, and what's something they could do?
Well, the program that I teach is called Catalyst Plan. And they can go to catalystplan.com. They can kind of see how I do this. I do it through 9 phases, 9 steps. After running this now for a whole bunch of years, the typical business will add $100,000 to $1 million of top line revenue in 12 months. And they only use the first 3, maybe 4 modules of the 9 steps.
My goodness.
I just got too far ahead, but they see the road. They see the roadway. They're getting the results. And it takes them that long to untrack their mind from their falsely held beliefs that literally become self-limitation.
Yes, we definitely can train our minds to the box. You've heard that how to train a flea example. You put a lid on it and bing, bing, bing. It's like, all right, that's good. That's all I could do. I'm gonna stop now.
That's the way they train elephants and all animals, is they create a limitation that demoralizes them, and then they remove the constraint, and they're still holding themselves back because they've been the feedback cycle has been negative for so long that they just don't consider the fact that the circumstances could change. So this is why my core value or my mission in life is to find a better way and share it with others, is that we are incredibly self-limiting in our beliefs and limitations. And I constantly look back and play the game of, what does the old Mark say to the young Mark if I had to do this all over again? If I had to say that and do that all over again, I would absolutely pound into the brains of anybody that is in business for themselves. Top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity. If you're not making a solid net profit, you're not sustainable. You're just going to chase your tails. And with that sustainability of profitability, you want to take a significant amount of that and invest it in a way that creates compound leverage, because you won't see any results for 10 years, 20 years, but in year 22 or 23, the whole thing's going to take off like a hockey stick, and you'll guarantee your future moving forward. And if there's ever a time in the history of this country to be thinking this way, it's right now, because we can't rely on any of the institutions that we've traditionally relied on. Any of the mechanisms of financial models are all being disrupted. But compound interest is a universal fact of the universe. So look at it that way.
So definitely check out the Mark's website. And Mark, is there an action that they should take when they visit it?
Well, when they go there, they can schedule an appointment if they want to learn more about what it is for themselves. And what I would advise is, if you're running a business, and if your business is in the $1 million to $10 million range, that's the area that I like to work with the most, because business owners are still active. They can make active decisions and they can act quickly. I've worked as high as 200 million in revenue. I don't like that, because the larger companies are so stratified and they become so political, and the individual agendas of the department heads and the marketing, and everybody's got their own agenda, and a lot of times they're self-defeating to the organization.
I've seen it. I used to work in an advertising agency. I'm not going to name my name, but I literally heard them say, yes, we're approved to waste this money, so that's what we'll do. So, okay, that's ridiculous.
Sustainable.
It's not a good idea. Yeah. So really exciting. Now you've got a library of books behind you. I'm curious if you had a book or two that you'd suggest for other amplifiers that might feed their brain, feed their minds.
So every book that you see, these are just 2 of my 9 bookshelves. All of the green dots are books that I've read. The books that have a gold sticker on them like this, I've read 6 times or more. The single biggest recommendation that I would have is this book here. It was written originally in 1962. This is the 5th edition, which was written in 1985. But it's called The Diffusion of Innovations. And what it is the first really academic study that looked at how innovation is presented to a population and how it's diffused into that population. And most people that are looking at innovation and are doing startups and disruption, they're familiar with the innovator, early adopter, early mainstream, late mainstream, and laggard model. That is the popularization of what diffusion of innovation is. This is the substance. The other stuff was Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore in 1993. That made it aware to everyone in the tech space. But this is what every major business in the world today follows, this model. And once you understand it, you'll understand how far you can go ahead of the market, how far you have to go ahead of the market, and to help you understand your investment and your timing and delivery and communication and validation of what you're trying to do and how you connect with the market itself. So that would be the single best one.
I highly appreciate you sharing that. It's going on my reading list for sure. I don't have as many bookshelves as you do, but I do have a decent amount of audiobooks. Maybe I'd have more if I had some audiobooks in print form. I do have sometimes I'll get both, but Mark, you've been an amazing inspiration to me and to many others. And you've already shared some nuggets of golden wisdom. One of the ways that we in this show is to see if you'd share something that you've learned on your journey that might be helpful for others on theirs. Just a closing piece of advice that you think would be worth putting out there in the world.
Well, as we experience life, there are high highs and there are low lows. I went through a period with my family of the lowest of lows in 2010 to 2012. I don't want to go into details of it. We don't have time for that, but it was just crazy. And basically what happened is we burned off and expended 40 years worth of wealth generation because we were unprepared for disruption, unexpected disruption. So whether that disruption is economic in nature, medical in nature, workplace shooting, embezzlement, COVID, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Literally 100% of my colleagues, when I looked in retrospect, they were as exposed as I was. They were just not considering what was happening until it hit. Having gone through COVID with everyone, I did a webinar 2 days after the shutdown on how to deal with this disruption. And we maxed out both sessions at 500 people because nobody knew what to do. And they were just freaked out. They were panicked out of the whole thing. What I've learned, and this is something that I live with every single day of my life, is whatever event happens for you, whatever happens, whether you run out of gas in your car, whether you are in an accident, or whether you have an employee walk out, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only 3 things that can happen moving forward, and 2 of them are bad. The positive aspect is this event will move me closer to my end goal. The worst, the next thing is this will definitely not move me toward my goal. It's not worth considering wasting time, investing time in on that. The worst scenario is what I refer to as the middle finger solution, which is, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. I'm going to have to look into this. I'm going to have to study it. That tells me that we don't have clarity in life. That to recognize the positivity, I can take any event and find a way of looking at that event to move me closer to my end goal. That is the secret currency of a mental mind shift as opposed to a mental mindset of, oh my God, this is going to kill us. Oh my God, this is going to hold us back. Look at this last week. I don't know if you saw Elon Musk in the New York Times interview when they were Disney and Apple and everybody were pulling their advertising from X. Mm-hmm. And Elon said, F you.
Mm-hmm.
Your advertising.
Right.
If you're going to extort me, blackmail me with money, you're going to blackmail me with money. That was complete control. That was magnificent in terms of his ability. He knew exactly where he's going. They thought they would control his dialogue and his presence economically. And he said, not important, doesn't matter. I've got 50 different ways that I can make this work. And it was just brilliant. I mean, I've replayed that thing probably 20 times just for the psychological value of the clarity that he had in that situation. Politics aside, whatever that is, I don't care about that. I'm looking at how he handled that unexpected scenario. Chances are he already probably thought about that ahead of time and had already figured it out. So that one tool and technique is something that I use every single day when a situation presents itself and I deal with a client or a prospect or someone that I know that's completely flustered and in chaos about what do I do? What do I do? Only three things that can happen, and two of them are bad, right? And if they can't answer what's your exit, what's your big goal, then we spend time talking about that and put it in context. And that lowers the temperature of the discussion almost instantly.
Brilliant. It's truly an honor to have you as a guest and to have you share your wisdom with the audience. You're such an amplifier, and highly appreciate that, Mark. Thank you so much.
I very much enjoy it. I would love to come back at some future time and, share more perspectives, more investigations, more, explorations.
Dive deeper into the.
It's like the rabbit hole. Once you're in, it's the deeper you go, and the deeper you go, the more interesting it becomes.
Thank you so much. And amplifiers, if you are not taking an action from here, you're asleep at the wheel. Take something that you've learned today, whether it's a piece of information or a piece of advice, and put it into action. Keep on amplifying. Be the amazing person you are. Thank you much. To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.